I think we're in. Hello, Sarah.
Hey, Steff.
How are you doing?
Not too bad.
Good.
Feeling but good.
You're good. You're good. So we are back in with a second episode, and before we begin, I'm just going to do a quick introduction. So my name's Steff. I am a natural figure pro, and I run a company called Pro Prep Coaching for all those of you guys who love to get ripped or to get big or to get whatever goal it is you're after. And I'm here today with the beautiful Sarah. Sarah, take it away.
Hi, guys. So I'm Sarah. I've been competing now for touching on 7 years as a bikini athlete, starting as an amateur and now competing as a pro. So it's been a really awesome journey, and hence why Steff and I are coming together to do these videos to share lots and lots of information with you guys and keeping it real all the way through.
Absolutely, that's what this is all about. That is what this is all about. Just a chat with you all to really get you guys some information from our experience. Maybe you guys can teach us some stuff too. Please interact with us, drop some comments. And we've chosen a pretty good topic and a very current topic this time round, haven't we?
Yeah.
And that is, well, the predicament we're all in with COVID. And that has, particularly for us guys in the UK, meant that we have been in extended lockdowns for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And so the topic was how we cope with that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and as bodybuilders in particular, ways to, I guess, cope with being in lockdown and feeling so isolated. When being a bodybuilder, yes, it can be isolating, but also we find that, you really get into coming to shows, doing posing lessons, going to different gyms, seeing all your friends in the industry, and that's been completely taken away. So it's really nice to just come together. And I guess from your point of view, you're working with a lot of clients, so maybe helping through what you're hearing from your clients. And then for me as a bodybuilder, being at home, and that change, I'm not at work at the moment because I work in a gym, so I'm furloughed. So I've had the gym and work just completely taken, I guess. So it's ways that we can all help each other and get through it.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess where the best place to start might be just in taking maybe the listeners through some of your examples, Sarah, of, what you've done with that situation. You've been furloughed, you've not got the gym where you work, where you train. So how have you adapted?
So the first lockdown, I guess, was almost a novelty because it was summer as well.
Yeah.
And, there was the restrictions in place, but it wasn't expected. We didn't really know it was going to happen. So it was like, oh, I'm off work for a few months, bit of leave. And it was okay. I got used to home training and I had some kit and what have you. And then when I went back to work, I found that after the sort of 2-3 months, it was like, okay, I'm ready to get productive again and be back at work.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the second lockdown came and it was like, oh, well, we know what to expect. It's almost like another bit of leave again. But then the winter obviously started to come, and actually, it became a lot more serious with deaths and actually knowing people that had got COVID, and it got more serious. But there was no real, I don't know about over where you are, but the restrictions were a bit sort of hairy-fairy. It was like, you can do this, but you can't do this. And then it was breeding this real negative aura around the world.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like everyone I spoke to was down in the dumps.
Mm-hmm.
And not having the gym and having that stimulus and the load as well for us as competitors, I've definitely noticed a change in my physique. Although I'm still training the same amount of volume, I'm just not getting that stimulus.
Yeah.
So the second lockdown, it took me into my show as well in December.
Sure.
And that was, in itself, the show was really difficult in regards to no audience, flying over with the mask on, and you weren't allowed to go out anywhere. You couldn't even go for sort of a celebratory sit down with your family after.
Yeah, it's hard.
And even the vibe in the place, they had backstage where you get ready, they had marked out taped sort of squares, and everyone had a square, and it wasn't what we get from our sport. So that was really tricky. And so the post-show period was just really eerie. And then we had Christmas, of course, and then coming back into the third lockdown. So it's not till in the recent weeks where I've started to think, actually, I can still reach out to like-minded people. And it's definitely given me a depth to my own coping mechanisms with not having what we're used to, because we just don't know where the end is. So some of the things I've been doing is reaching out through listening to more podcasts of people that I respect in the industry. Definitely would say, when you're looking at things like podcasts or Skypes or what have you, look for people you actually like and you respect, because otherwise you can go almost in the opposite and feel quite negative, because you feel, if it's not someone you're gelling with, you're just listening to podcasts, actually it may not have the same effect. But if it's, something that a topic that you enjoy, you can get some sort of stimulus from it. And then also things like, I've joined a members site. So the Physique Collective, which I follow on Instagram, they launched a members site. And I've always thought about doing something like that as like a sort of forum type thing. And then, I really like the group of coaches they've got. And I just thought, what the hell, it's like $6.99 a month. There's an open forum, everyone puts topics in, polls, different things like that, and the majority of people are competitors. So it's a really, it's a cheap, easy way to feel like you're, able to interact with people that get you.
For sure, that's a cool thing to do.
I'm sure you'll agree. The main point here is that you feel like nobody gets you as a bodybuilder generally in general life, because we do something that is an extreme sport. And to a certain degree, I quite like that. I quite like being the weirdo and the one that, well, what's she eating now? But none of that's happening. And so you're just this bodybuilder in your own four walls. And since, I guess in the last year or two, it's very much an individual thing for me. I don't even really talk to Kieran, my husband, about it, because it's got to the point where he doesn't really need to know my macros. He's not really, he's not as interested, because it's my thing and I've been doing it for so long now. So it's literally like, unless you're on Instagram or something like that, or like you and I speaking and me speaking to my coach, who else are you being able to, that's, it's not our true identity, in a complete way, but it is a massive part of our identity.
Hugely. Hugely.
So that's it's just something that's easily accessible. And I've definitely found that it's given me almost another zest to continue doing what I'm doing.
Good.
What about yourself?
I was going to say, it's interesting that you've just sort of pointed out that it's like, it's not your whole identity, but it's a massive part of who you are. And I think at every point, I'd love to know a guy's point of view on this as well, but at every point in maybe a female's bodybuilding journey, you have a conflict with what you're doing, being a bodybuilder, and what society says you should be. Like, you should be like the 30-year-old who's, buying the house with the kids and the whole thing like that. Or, oh my gosh, how many times have you had that conflict where you want to go and buy a really nice dress, but that dress doesn't look good on you because your back and your shoulders are too hinged? Do you know what I mean?
You can see your traps.
Exactly. And it's so weird, because sometimes even now I'll catch myself, I might wake up one day, and that particular day I might have been, I don't know, going around to what I call my normie friend's house, and I've got like my bodybuilding friends, and then I've got my normies, and that they joke because obviously it's the select kind of people who maybe don't really understand why you do what you do, but they still support you. And
you're still friends.
Exactly. And I might go around and have a day, in a normal circumstance with them, and I'll come away from that and be like, oh, that was really nice, eh? Just having a nice like lunch and a glass of wine and this and that. And it just kind of, it's weird. You have this dichotomy. So I suppose that's another area. It's a whole other topic in itself, isn't it? Coping strategies, yeah. I mean, I echo so much of what you've just said, Sarah. I think each of the lockdowns we've had, and it's weird actually, because saying it out loud, you realize actually this has been like a year now.
Yeah,
A
it's
year.
scary. It's
It's
literally,
scary.
you're going to be touching on a year, isn't it?
Yeah, and the first one was kind of that. I think we were all in that instant panic at the beginning. Do you remember when everybody went into that kind of crazy mode where people were stocking up on pasta and everything else?
Yeah,
And the shock of it hit everybody in a very different way. So the way I come at it, of course, with my own strategies for myself, but I'm also hearing from my clients all of the different ways in which people have had that impact of the lockdown. And for some people, it's been mental health, and anxieties and depressions have rocketed a bit because it's been a very intense so it's so visceral, isn't it, that it's seeping through everybody in a different way. And then there's been other sort of reactions where you've got the clients who have had a very difficult financial impact of it, or you've got the loss of the jobs, you've got, just the confinement to the house, and that has brought its own set of challenges. So some of the things that I talk to my clients about, and I've kind of written a wee list here, I think are super useful for coping. And some people might have heard these already, but making sure you have got a routine at home is almost 100% vital to help you manage your emotional sort of states, because we're all going to go through those days which you're going to wake up and pinch yourself and go, yep, we're still in a pandemic, and have to stay. And then you're going to have those other days where you wake up and you're like, it's cool, it's fine, I can handle it.
100%, and I have those.
Yeah, exactly. And so having a routine, and I actually set my clients a template, waking up, what are you going to do for your morning slot? What's that going to look like? Is that having a bit of time for you? Is it doing some yoga? Is it going out for a nice fresh walk to get some fresh air? What is it? Making sure that you kind of plan your morning to get yourself in a cognitive pattern. And then I did a little video on my Instagram of this the other day, but separating your day into chunks. So what part of the day are you going to be productive on? Maybe your work, or what you're working on at that point of time, and productivity is there. Maybe the other part of the day is your well-being time. That's where you're going to train. It's where you're going to, do whatever you need to do for your body and your mind to feel like you've blown off some steam, like that you've actually done something. So routine, yes, super, super important. Something else that I have been sort of chatting away about is, because the term I keep getting is, it's just so hard, I'm so demotivated, and I'm stuck inside. We're stuck inside. And that term, being stuck, I've talked about reframing. So taking your negative and reframing it, flipping it around. And instead of saying, I'm stuck inside and I can't go out and it's detrimental to my motivation, flip it and sort of say, I'm finally in a place where I can prioritize myself. I'm finally in a place where I can prioritize my house, my home, my area of well-being. How do I want this to look? And you can literally almost compartmentalize your home into spaces which are going to be, right, that's your area where you're going to go do this, that's your area where you're going to go do that, and feng shui the place, clean it up, declutter, get it all looking the way you want it, and using it as like a project for you to actually get in a mindset where you can be healthy and kind to yourself. And so if you're not going to, a
big thing there with that is that I myself, like, I used to do yoga once a week, and I absolutely loved it, and I just never found time to do it any more than that with what we do. And the first lockdown, I started doing it every night for an hour, and since then, now it's nearly been a year. If I don't do it for an hour every night, it almost, what it's like, we get into these routines and it becomes quite rigid as bodybuilders. So it's flipping it on its head and finding that, like you say, that me time, and doing something that's really beneficial for your mental and your physical health. Because something like yoga, it's awesome.
It is awesome. It is awesome.
We always prioritize like weights, food prep.
Totally. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, finding those little things, whether it's, you know, yoga, is it a form of meditation? Is it even just stretching, like putting a good playlist on and just
Yeah.
limbering your body up? Is it, if you've got a bath, is it taking a really nice hot bath? You know, it's like all of
Switch
those
off.
switching off. And, you know, we can only, I always say this sort of, you can only control what you can control. All of this stuff that's going on around us is externals we can't control right now.
Yeah.
So instead of resisting it, accept it and try and then find enjoyment out of controlling what you can. So like controlling your environment around you and the things that you can do to actually be kind on yourself. I think as well, like if we think about this lockdown, it's kind of forced us all to slow down. It's all, and that's weird, because it's like,
for bodybuilders in particular, Christ, I mean,
so odd.
If I look back at the last 7 years, for most of those years I've been very neurotic, because you have to be able to fit a job and everything else with competing. And then it's like, I can cook my food fresh every day, like I don't eat out of a Tupperware. And it's almost like, again, that bit of your identity is gone at the moment.
Yeah.
But actually it's pretty, cushy to be able to cook my meals fresh every day. And, I flexible diet. So normally I'd have my Fitness Pal sort of planned out for the week from a Monday and do it like that.
Yeah.
Essentially like a food plan because I'm at work and whatever. But now it's like each day I can go, oh, I fancy a bit of that instead of that. Or, and again, it's being able to reflect and realize that you can still be a bodybuilder within these four walls. And actually, like we spoke about in our first video, the intrinsic motivation to be a bodybuilder, if anything now is, it needs to be rife within you because you're not going to do it otherwise.
Yeah. And also it's kind of the best time to do it because you've not got the temptation of going out. You can't.
Food, it's like things like going to Tesco at times. I'll go to Tesco and I don't want X, Y, and Z of the foods, but when I see them, I buy them. And then I'm like, well, why have I even brought that? And I end up giving it to Kieran or whatever.
Yeah.
None of that's there. So you can literally just box off each day, hitting your macros, doing your training. Okay, the training's different.
Yeah.
You can, like we say, fit in some scheduled time for yourself.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know about you, but I'm starting to almost old injuries and things. I'm starting to get more in tune with sorting them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think if there was ever a time to be listening more to your body and your health, it's now. Again, coming back to it sort of being like, we've finally got the time to do it.
Take advantage
of it. We've slowed down right now. You might not be focused on other things, but you can focus on listening. Yeah, if you had a shoulder niggle, is this a time where you can do rehabilitation work on it? If you haven't got access to tons and tons of weight, use what you do have, bands, everything else, and actually implement as part of your sessions.
Rehab,
or even just stripping weight right away and reforming your technique on some of the main lifts. Like I've got quite a lot of clients. Yeah, totally. I mean, like I've got quite a lot of clients right now where we're just fixing their deadlift or we're fixing their squat. We're looking at their, basically their mechanics and what actual movements are going to be better for them when we come out of lockdown. So we're doing loads of stuff like that. And I think even for me, like right now I'm lucky that in this lockdown I've purchased a lot more stuff, so I've got a lot of weight and I can progress. But I have spent, in my second lockdown, because we had limited access, I spent the whole of that 6 to 8 week block perfecting my squat, and I was just focused solely on the squat and perfecting that technique. I've never done such a focus on one lift before. For me, it's done me well. Firstly, I now like doing squats, which I never did before. And secondly, I feel so strong. Like I felt so much stronger now in that lift than I've ever done in the last 20 odd years of me lifting. And that's mad for me.
So it's such a positive thing that we can take as bodybuilders. And I also find that in relation to the gym, at first I almost felt like, well, you haven't got the gym, there's people dying, there's people getting really ill, there's other things, stop whinging about the gym. But then actually, I sat back and I thought, that's such a big part of our lives. And it was almost like I was in mourning for the gym. And it sounds maybe silly to some people, but people listening to this will hopefully get it, that I've actually given myself you're okay to feel like that.
Yeah. I think that's so, I think so many people will resonate with that, Sarah, because it's been said a lot, and you can see it on social media at the moment. There's some really great gym owners championing making sure gyms are opening for mental health purposes, but the mental health aspect of literally taking yourself and going to the gym is massive. It cannot be, downplayed. For some people, this has made them realize how much they need the gym for that release and that kind of emotional outlet. And I think for everything's I take everything as relative. You could kind of say, how dare you for complaining about the gym when there's people dying and everything else. And it's the same for anyone. It's relative to what you need to be able to manage yourself. You know what I mean? And so I
feel bad for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrendous what's going on around us. There's no doubt about that. But everyone's got to survive this in some way or another. And for us, the thing that keeps us going is that exercise, the endorphins moving, the movement is really important. So from that front, going straight back to like the routine idea of this, if you know that going to the gym is something that gives you that release, don't neglect that during this time at home. Make sure you do it. Because even though it's more difficult to build that momentum to get up off your seat and maybe go to your living room or wherever else it is, for me, it's my underground car park right now. But wherever it is, put that as a non-negotiable in your day, and you'll feel so much better after you do it.
100%, because even for us, the most, I'd say, motivated of people in regards to because we've been doing this for so long, we are motivated to train, we're motivated to do our food. I've even found that if you hear the dishwasher beep and it's done, suddenly in between sets you're doing the dishwasher. And you've almost got to think, okay, that's okay now and then maybe, but there needs to be an element of scheduling that in, that it is your gym session. And I've even had a conversation with Kieran and said, when I'm training, can you just try and respect that that's my, hour and a quarter?
Yeah.
I don't want you coming in saying, do you want a cup of tea? Or the novel questions that he wouldn't ask me if I was in the gym training. Because you'd be pumping yourself up ready to do a set.
Exactly.
Pre-workout, you're in the gym, you're pumped, the music's on. Just because we're at home, it doesn't mean that I want him to ask me if I need to do the Hoover, or all the things that hour and a quarter I need for my own sanity, as it were. And again, it almost sounds a bit silly, but thankfully he understands and gets what I'm saying. But if you need to have conversations with the people you live with or the people in your bubble that you might train with, if it's that they keep letting you down and then you don't train and all those things, have those conversations.
Yeah, totally. And, actually on that front, that's another coping mechanism right there, talking to people, but and making sure that you are having open lines of communication. Like I'm saying to all my clients at the moment, I'm as much of somebody I want them to open up and have a chat with as I am a coach right now, because I know how much that outlet of half an hour can mean to somebody who might be very lonely currently. And so I think, talk to friends, talk to family, schedule. This is the time to do it. If you haven't scheduled those phone calls with people, you know, the ones that you're like, oh, I really need to get around to talking to them. I really need to get around to talking to them. Schedule the calls, because honestly, like just the communication element, we're human nature needing that tactile contact. That's the way we're made, isn't it? So that's so key at the moment. So that's another thing, and I'm pretty happy that you brought that up as well, because I was thinking I've needed at points during this lockdown to call a friend. I've needed
And I definitely, one of my bodybuilding friends, Soph, we do a FaceTime nearly every week now, and we say, let's do a face. And sometimes we're on the FaceTime. I think once we were touching on 3 hours.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, bloody hell, I've been on this call for 3 hours. It was like we were together, and you'd have a cup of tea, and we don't go and put the kettle on while we're on the FaceTime, and but I need a wee now, and you take the video off, and and it's almost like what you would do if you're around the house.
Yeah.
And because we're both into bodybuilding, it just makes it really natural, and we're just and then you've got other friends that you might FaceTime with that are not into bodybuilding at all. But like you said earlier, when you go for a glass of wine and a pizza or whatever with a friend that's not into bodybuilding, we sometimes might need that as well. So it's trying to find
100%.
At the moment now, coming into February, March, this is a time where people are actually going into prep now as well. So it's like that emotional change that you need when you go into prep is a whole nother realm. And you've normally got that interaction with people saying, oh, are you going into prep now? How's it going? And you almost thrive on that, like, my macros have gone down, I'm doing more cardio, I'm doing this. And
totally.
even things like cardio, like, can people get access to a cross trainer or a bike? What's that? And Stephen said to me, when I compete next time, he said, what you've got to realize is everyone's physique is going to have had an effect on this. And I thought, whatever. And then when I did compete in December, it was like, actually, it is different looking at physiques.
It is. Yeah. I think, you touched on it earlier, like, have you noticed a change in your physique because of this whole situation? And for me, it's like, I'm just not quite as tight as I normally am.
100%.
It's like that kind of, I've still the muscles there, but it's just, I'm not as hardly like that stretched tight. You don't get the same quite maximum pump that you get when you're training, because you just don't have the load like we spoke about earlier, the stimulus. So there is a different body going on right now, and
I'm struggling with that myself. I don't like being soft.
Yeah. I mean,
it's hard.
Do you? Yeah.
Even when I'm bigger, even at the height of an off season, you can still feel tight almost.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, because if you're a competitor that doesn't stay too far away, within that 5, 6, maybe 6 to 8 kilos, of speed weight, you can still hold a body composition that's like what I kind of call fuller lean. It's like that tight but full feeling.
Yeah.
And so you're not soft and you're not chunky. You're that just bigger version of the body on stage. Yeah. And that's such a sweet spot to be in. During this time, that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, for the best of us who want to try and maintain that kind of window, it's been a struggle. Like, I'd probably say all hands on the table. Like, my first lockdown was a complete disaster. I just went into full protection mode of my clients, my business, my, everything. I put myself literally at the bottom of the list. So for me, the first lockdown, I hardly even trained. Like, I was more concerned about just saving my people and making sure that everybody was taken care of and that they had the support. That I put myself there. Second lockdown, easing myself back in, focused on a particular lift I really wanted to maximize, because I didn't have tons. So, for me, I've now got to a place where, okay, I think we've all, and I've seen the mentality of my clients shift in this third lockdown, where we're kind of like, okay, we're in this. It's not going away. It's shit, but we are okay. It's that 360 of the kind of the shock factor, the management, the anger, the stress. And now we're like, all right, we're here. We'll just have to manage it, And
it's almost like, because we had that Christmas period as well. And I don't think I've ever been so excited for Christmas. And I love Christmas anyway. But being in that second lockdown, I was like, I wonder why I'm looking forward to Christmas so much. And I think it was just the element of something to look forward to. And I said to Stephen the other day, at the moment, before I go back into prep, every other weekend I have off tracking my food, and I have like an Indian, some food that I wouldn't have on plan. And I said to him, do you know what? it's not even that I want to sit and eat loads of food, because I've come away from that type of behavior over the years. But I think it's just literally the fact of Kieran going, collecting the Indian, coming back.
Thing. Yes.
It's like we're having a date almost. And
Yeah.
then when we've eaten the Indian, I sit there and think, oh, that was really nice, but there's nothing to look forward to now.
Yeah, I know, I get it.
And it is turning that sort of my yoga every night, and it seems stupid, but I do like my yoga, some massage balls, stuff like that, have my hot bath, have my protes, go to bed. I look forward to sort of 6 o'clock where that kicks in.
Yeah.
And it becomes another motivation, but in a completely different way.
Totally. And that's your routine. Like
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of you've set that block from 6 onwards.
Non-negotiable.
This set, yoga, bath, protes, chill, bed, happy days. Like you're in that zone. And I think that's so good, because setting those like little intentions for your mental health right now, because that is like, obviously from a coping point of view, I think all of us, like I said earlier, are doing that yo-yo mindset every day. Or a week at a time. One week you'll have strong, next week you'll fall off a little bit, then you'll condemn yourself, then you'll guilt trip, and then you'll come back on. And I see this pattern so often. It's like, what can we do to try and keep, I don't want to say positive, because I don't really particularly like say keep positive. I don't really like that.
Yeah.
I like to sort of think, well, how can we manage things? Like, how can you keep strong through it? And turn the news off is one. Like,
I don't listen to it anyway, but bloody hell, it depresses me, doesn't it?
It's so depressing. I mean, for goodness sake, we're basically getting a daily death toll count daily, like every day at the moment. And whether you're the most positive person or not, that stuff subconsciously just infiltrates. And, it's just the weight of that every day. So one of the biggest things I would say is turn social media down to a low, turn news off completely. Don't listen to the radio. Don't bother listening to anything unless it's like you're coming out of lockdown, because that would be good. Like, you know what I mean? Just try and limit the negative sources that are subconsciously altering your state of mind.
And also, like you say, with TV, I've definitely found that I've watched them, because I would never really watch TV because I didn't tend to have the time, and maybe more that I didn't want to use my time on that. But then I've watched some things, like the other day I watched a Tiger Woods documentary, and
cool.
I watched like the Michael Jordan one, and I like those ones because there's the sport element, and it turns into quite you realize their life's almost a fantasy, and it's not all about the sport. It's quite interesting because there's points where you can see what they've given to their sport and you can relate to it. So you can choose programs that would potentially stimulate you that you wouldn't normally have watched, and you can take interest in that.
100%. I'm doing the same sort of thing right now in our house, because we're up in Scotland, is Strongman. So we watch like World's Strongest Man on repeat. It's ridiculous, but it's like you say, it's watching sports sort of type programs about things that you like. We love the strength sports stars. And it still gives you that motivation in a different kind of way. And I say this to clients as well. Like, if you're in a bit of a trough with your mindset, motivation wise, best thing you can do is put on a motivational video on YouTube right now and listen to that. Seriously.
And I've even found comfort in random things. Like, I've been watching Eddie Hall doing eating challenges.
I've seen that.
I don't particularly, I wouldn't say it's normally something I'd sit and watch an eating challenge, but some of them are quite funny. And he's quite funny because he'll go to like somewhere and it'll be an authentic eating challenge, and then he'll go and he'll go and pull a lorry as well.
Totally.
So it's like it's very novelty, and it's just why not have a bit of fun and submerse in stuff like that, rather than maybe watching things like documentaries or watching the daily death toll.
Totally.
It's only going to bring you down, isn't it? Do we need to know that every single day? Probably not.
No, absolutely not. And I think as well, like everyone, you mentioned something at the beginning of the podcast, like the amount of confusion that everyone's been experiencing with, what you're meant to do, what you're not meant to do, can you go out here? Can you not? Kind of what, it's been a minefield of information. So you almost kind of have to set up a little set of rules for yourself in your house, as long as you're not like doing, you know, anything out with what you're meant to do. And just yeah, you know, you're in control of what you watch, you're in control of what you listen to. And that can in itself can be a little task, almost like a little exercise for yourself to actually decide, okay, what do I enjoy? Like you said, podcasts, what type of media
Forums.
yeah, like maybe you want to sort out all your playlists and have some killer gym playlists ready for when you go back, you know, like
Yeah, that could be a daily thing. And like one day you could do that.
Exactly, you know, just stuff that you can use your time doing creative things that maybe you've just never really got around to doing. And
Yeah, 100%. That's definitely one of the things that I spoke to Sophie about earlier in the week. Drawing for me, I find really therapeutic, and I can't do, you know, 4 or 5 hours of drawing in my normal life.
yeah.
And it's very far-fetched for me to be able to do it. And it's, at first I felt bad for doing it, because one, I really busy doing all these bodybuilder type stuff. And then it was like, but you can't do the bodybuilder type stuff. You can't do all the stuff you normally would. You can only do X, Y, and Z because that's all you're allowed to do, and that's all you have access to. So you're going to need to fill your day in other ways. Why does it need to be a negative? But as bodybuilders, we're incredibly hard on ourselves a lot of the time. And, you know, to get to where we have, coming from amateur to pro, and all the, I don't like to call them sacrifices because they're choices for me. But, you know, when, like we spoke about on the first one, when people say, you've got to be, you know, harder against it. It's got to be pain all day, every day. When, you know, we've put all of that into our sport, and to be able to go, oh, I'm going to do an hour of yoga a day, it's almost like, should you be doing that?
Yeah.
So I've personally had to, and you've probably the same, you've had to turn your mindset around. Actually, you know, those sorts of things are important, but now we've got the time to explore them, and don't feel bad for that.
Totally, absolutely. And I think, you know, I think we're quite similar in the sense that we think about things. So I mean, I'm a very analytical thinker, so sometimes I can let my mind like wander off and let it go play tricks on me for, you know, hours at a time.
Yeah.
And so I think the things like scheduling time on more low key kinds of exercise for me, the resting, the yoga, the stretching has been really good for me managing my mental health as well, because I'm similar to you. I'm normally like go when I'm in the gym. I'm like a complete maniac. You know, I'll come home, I'll eat, I'll go to bed, I'll wake up and work, and just it's just like that kind of, you know, that whirlwind. So when you're forced to kind of slow down, it's hard. Oh my god, it's so hard, you know.
Been my hardest point.
Yeah.
Feeling bad.
Yeah.
But for slowing down.
Yeah, I've felt like that.
Alien, isn't it?
Yeah, it's also like feeling like when you stop, and I suppose like this is a bit like what we were saying in the last one as well, when it's almost like when you stop a prep, you have to fill a void because you've not got that goal. This has been kind of similar in a sense that it's forced you to look at patterns of your thinking in a bit more of a kind of stark light almost, and
it's not always
not easy,
exciting, is it?
And no, it's not always nice. You're not like, yeah, hell yeah, I can deal with that. You're like, I don't want to deal with that.
I am an absolute lunatic. What is happening in here?
Like, why am I thinking about this? This is absolutely bonkers. But no, I mean, it has forced us to think about things about yourself. You've got more time on your hands to think about yourself. So, and that's when, like, I say this to my clients as well, like, that's when self-doubt can creep in. That's when things can start to play on you. And then motivation becomes even more difficult because, you know, you're self-critical to an extreme. So there's a lot you could do for, I think, managing mental health in this time, whether that's journaling, writing things down. That's really helped me. Whether it's reading some maybe more, I hate the word the two words self-help, I hate it. But, you know, if you've got a couple of good books, like I've got a couple of really good ones at the moment that I tap into, and it just reinforces a few things that when my mind takes me away,
yeah,
it'll pull me back in, and
yeah.
I'll be like, okay, stop that ridiculous thinking, get back to,
Why am I obsessing over something that I don't need to obsess over? Which
exactly.
is a trait in bodybuilders, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And so those sorts of things are useful, because from a mental point of view, you need to find coping strategies that work for you. And if that is writing, if it's reading, if it's listening, if it's doing whatever it is, prioritize that stuff, because otherwise you'll find it very difficult and you'll find yourself stuck in a bit of a loop of negative thinking patterns.
Yeah. I think it's almost like we could, to surmise today, it's almost like you could put two sections of the mental health and the physical health.
I would agree. Yeah.
And they're equally as important.
Totally. You need to summarize that. Yeah. You want to make sure you're moving your body to release energy, to get it moving, to feel those endorphins, to make sure that you are exerting energy in a good way to keep you healthy.
Yeah.
And then from the other side of it, managing the mental health side of it, set your routines, be kind to yourself, set time aside to actually explore how, you want to,
how you actually feel.
How you feel. Exactly. Very rare do we get that opportunity to do that. So it comes back to that reframing. You're not stuck inside. You have an opportunity to
care for yourself.
Care for yourself and slow down and think about maybe changing the way you want to live your life,
And your priorities.
Totally.
And I guess the one that, is the top of both of those, it's almost like the roof to the house, is reach out if you need to.
Yeah, 100%.
And be open and honest and talk. As bodybuilders, I don't know about you, but definitely through my journey, like I've mentioned a couple of times, I've come from a very neurotic point of needing my macros, my training, everything to be exact. I've got a knack of being able to hit everything exact as well. And I've come through that, but then throughout some of the lockdown, I've almost found that those traits start kicking back in, and I'm like, oh, how can I do this? How can I? But it's through other things. It's not maybe my macros or what, because I know how to do that now.
Yeah.
But those neurotic tendencies don't serve me well.
Yeah.
And as a bodybuilder, and coming through that, when I could see myself almost slipping back mental health wise, I've had to go, you need a structure and you need one quickly.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, only in the last few weeks, I've realized it's actually okay to reach out. Bloody hell, it's not a sign of weakness. So that's why I say it's almost like the roof to the house, because I've sorted out my gym routine, what I can do at home, and I've accepted that I cannot get the load I normally would. I've sorted out my yoga, my massage balls, my hot bath, sleep routine, etc. Now I'm at that point where it's like, okay, now I'm going to interact more with people like yourself, my friends. I'm going to suggest doing a FaceTime. I'm going to actually facilitate other people as well. And it's almost like those three parts of I found are all I need to be able to survive the rest of it.
Do this. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think that's a really, really good summary for sure. And yeah, I mean, it's beneficial if you're in a place with somebody around you, like you've got Kieran, I've got Andrew, and for those people who do have someone, lean on them. And this, for those who maybe don't have somebody at home, like you say, keep the lines of communication open. Just talk to people, interact, do whatever you need to do. Join like forums like you've just joined, anything like that, so that you just don't go inside yourself.
It's not a good place to be, and we know that from our own, like in a prep when we spoke about last week, you come off the back of a show and you think, what just happened?
Yeah, totally.
I've had my head down and I've been doing all my stuff, and then I've competed and I'm like, bloody hell. It's very similar, isn't it? If you introvert too much. Kieran's very sort of, he'd be happy if it was like this for the rest of our lives, because he'd very easily be introverted. And I have to say to him, look, let's try. And he does the Tesco shopping, he does bits and bobs, and he's working a bit on emergencies and stuff, and for him that's stimulation, because otherwise it wouldn't be there, and he's not got any motivation to train at home. So consequently, you've got people that are changing their diet, changing their exercise, not doing any of them. And it's like, as we know, the food that you eat, the exercise you do does depict a lot of your own mental health. So you really do need to get your ducks in a line. And like you say, I think the biggest one of those is that routine and listening to yourself.
For sure. And you forget how good it feels you forget how good it feels when you're healthy and you're hydrated. You do. And if you've lost that somewhere along the line, it can be hard to get back on track. But trust me, get a week or two under your belt and you'll just feel like a little bit of a deep breath, like, okay, I'm back, I'm okay, I'm going to get through this. Because I think all of us have been at some point during this lockdown where we have lost ourselves maybe. You've maybe had a crazy ton of food and a bottle of wine, or you've done something, you've not trained for a week or two or whatever, and you felt shit. But then when you've got back into it, you remember, this is why I do it. This is why.
And that's okay.
Okay. That's okay. That was yesterday. Today's today. New day, fresh start, move forwards, and that's all we can do at the moment. So I really hope some of these have been super, super helpful.
Yeah, so do I. And it's like we've already said, the reach we're getting from our first video and hopefully from this one as well. And like we've already said, any topics that people want us to cover as competitors or, bodybuilding in general, we are completely open to discussing anything. So this one was really nice because it touches on our own take on the mental health side of things as well. But there's definitely so many subjects we can cover, but of course if we can do that through someone being interested in it initially, it's a way to sort of spark the interest in what we're talking about
in the topics. For sure. And the best way to do it, guys, is contact us. Just drop us a note down below in the comment section on this video or in our Instagrams or wherever you see this video. Second Sarah, we're open to all discussions. So I just can't wait to get stuck in. It's like every time I talk to you, Sarah, it's like we could probably speak for hours.
I know.
We're giving each other a signal like, is it 30 minutes over yet? Are there still going to be people who are watching?
You want it to be. And I actually, when I listen to podcasts and stuff, sometimes the person leading it will go, right, we've just hit an hour now, let's wrap it up. And it's like, because almost like, I guess people start 30 minutes to an hour would be enough for most people to listen to while you're doing other stuff or whatever. But obviously trying to keep people wanting to listen till the end is a key thing for us. So but awesome opportunity for us both to just share our knowledge and experience.
Absolutely. So where can people find you, Sarah?
So Instagram is the best, the gram. So Sarah Parker Hatchard, and then I'll release this video on my YouTube as well, which is the same. But feel free to reach out. Any questions on today's topic or future topics would be awesome.
Yay!
And what about you?
Same over here on the gram is the best way to get me. Steff with a double F _noble_figure pro, or you can just jump on my coaching page, Pro Prep Coaching. That's a bit easier, and that's where you'll find the link to our YouTube as well. So please jump on there, get interacting, and this is for you guys. So anything you want to hear about, let us know.
Awesome. Thanks, Steph.
Thanks, Sarah. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.
Bye.